Alrighty, what is going on, ladies and gents? Welcome back to the channel for another weekly update. Hope everybody's having a lovely weekend. And with that being said, get into the TA. All right, so we are going to start off with the weekly charts, and then we're going to cover the daily charts, and we will get out of here as quick as possible. All right, let's get this done. All right, so the first thing I'm going to point out is that every single index here, we have SPY, we have QQ, we have IWM, we have DAA, they all closed out with these bearish engulfing candlesticks off of increasing volume. Now, SPY and QQ are also having their weekly RSI turn off of 70, and QQQ has had a bearish divergence on that weekly RSI for quite some time. We've been pointing that out every single week since it formed. I believe it was, right here, so 4 weeks ago. But that is something that is definitely taking place. I think we are about to see that play out. I do think, before we go any further into this video, I do think we are going to see continuation to the downside. Will this just be a dip buy opportunity? I do think that is going to be the case. If you think we're getting back down to the 2022 lows without a COVID-style catalyst there, like a really bearish catalyst that just panics everybody out of their positions all at once, I think you're crazy. All right, I think we are 100% going to need something like this. You see how you had that big, fat, nasty gap down? Like, that is a pretty big gap down to start off the week. That's what COVID did. All right, everyone was in complete panic. And, like, you had another one over here. You had another gap down of 5 to 6%. That's crazy. And then what do you have right here? Another weekly gap down of 8%. Like, that is the catalyst you're going to need to really see a move down here. So if you think that is going to be taking place, I don't know what to tell you. Take a step back, just look at what is going on the charts. And if you really want to, we could just come over here, all right? This is the end of 2022. All right, compare this price action to that price action. Do you see a difference? I see a difference. And honestly, I think we do have a catalyst here to give us a larger scale correction. But do I think it's not going to, just literally be a buying opportunity to then come back up to these prices? I can't say I don't think it's exactly going to be that. That is just my opinion, so I want to get my bias out of the way before we go any further. But does not mean I am not open to a larger scale move to the downside. Actually, before we go any further in this video, let's just come over. So this is on QQQ. Last time we had the same exact catalyst. You did get I think it was a 16% drop here. 16% drop over the following 4 weeks. So we had 1 month where you had a very large drop. You did end up taking out this low. You did end up double bottoming in here, and you did end up recovering over the following months to that exact same level. So from that bottom, over the following, pretty much the following month and 1 week here, you had a 15% rise. Now, I'm just going to point out, that is why I think, like, even if we get this, I think it's going to be a glorious dip buy, correction buy, crash buy, whatever you want to call it. I think it's going to be a buying opportunity where you can make some, I don't want to call it quick money, all right? But, if you have the guts of glory here, I think this is, I think it's going to be a good opportunity. And then as you see over the following 3 months here, you just completely recovered all the way up here. You did literally dip back down, and then you had another opportunity where in 2 weeks you did end up seeing a 17% rise. Now QQ is much less expensive here, but let's come over here to SPY and compare what happened back then to what we could see now. All right, well, you got the catalyst. I think it was beginning of so it should have been at the end of this week right here, beginning of August. And within 2 weeks here, we'll call it 3 weeks, you had a 17% crash. And yes, we'll call it a crash. You literally came right underneath this low here, and then you just died. So we're going to see if we get that same scenario on the current charts. We're going to see where that brings us to, and I think it's going to be pretty appealing. But then guess what? From that low, you had a 12% rise over the following 3 to 4 weeks. So that is something to note as well. And then boom, you came down, you had an ugly double bottom. And what did that also form? All right, you had a bullish divergence here on the weekly RSI. So no matter what happens, I don't think we are going to come back and take out the lows. You see this 2008 crash? All right, we can call this is our COVID 2020 crash. I don't think we're making it back down to this COVID 2022, or not 2022 lows, the 2020 lows. And then I also don't think we're going to make it down to these 2022 lows. I just don't think it's going to happen unless you have something like this. Like, we're going to need to see inflation come back in full force month after month and start scaring the crap out of people out of their positions, because this whole rally, guys, it's caused off of positive signs on inflation. The drop we saw last year was 100% caused by everyone panicking that we're going to go into hyperinflation territory, and there's going to be that everyone's going to see this. All right, everyone saw 2020 and was caught off guard by it. And that is most likely why we had this controlled selling instead of just, all at once. But we also just continuously had these bearish inflation catalysts month after month. We had like 2 or 3 of them that just kept coming out. You had PPI, you had CPI, you had PCE. They just kept coming out. All right. And they were just continuing to be bearish. What happened this year? They stopped being bearish. So boom. All right. That is something that has happened this year. We're back down to 3% inflation. Until you start seeing that pipe back up, you're not going to see a downtrend form. That is my current opinion. All right. And to do some structural damage to this chart, all right, and demolish this uptrend, you're going to have to come all the way back here and take out this last major low, which is all the way down at 430. So, and I do think that's possible. We're going to go over, what would get you there, what would tell us we're probably going there. We're going to go over this. Don't you worry, bud. Don't you worry. And then on QQQ, all right, guys, you could come all the way back down here and you could back test 335. I'm not saying that happens, but if you do see a larger scale correction here, if you see that 16% move, I mean, we have room to the downside. We clearly have just gone up in a straight line here. And yeah, that would be a scenario that if we got down here, guys, I would be aggressively buying the dip with dated calls. I would definitely be doing so. Over here on SPY, you get down here, let's see percent wise, what would that do? All right, so that's not the biggest correction. If we do see if we see what we saw back in 2011, then you're going to be coming somewhere down into this range right here, and we could put a zone up right there. You would be back testing where you broke out from all the way over here, which is right around 420. That is something we had. 420, that was a big level. 430, that was also a big level because that was your August 2022 high. But I'm just going to point out right now, bear market rally, bear market rally, bear market rally. All right, you could even call this bear market rally. But when did we know things were changing? Boom, boom. You took out that high. You did not make it back down to the low. Every single other bear market rally, you came down and you cut the low. Came down, cut the low. Came down, cut the low. So as of right here, that is when you started having your signs. And then guess what? You again held your low. You had a higher low. And then as of right here, that is when, that's when you really started seeing this new bull market narrative come to life. And I don't even want to call it a narrative because you can see what happened following that. Guys, in what bear market are you going to push back up to the highs? That's what I want to make very clear here. I don't think we are going to continue this move lower. I just don't. All right. I'm not saying that doesn't happen over the following years, but we're very close to all-time highs. I think that's where the market wants to go, and maybe they're going to scare a lot of people out of their positions, but I think that's all it's going to be. All right. Let's continue on with the weekly charts. All right. So I am watching this gap fill. No, we'll cover that on the daily time frame. All right. If on the weekly chart, the last structure you're really like watching to back test, you're going to be watching right here, 444. So yeah, 442.97 to 444. If you do break under there, all right, you are going to have this weekly low right here of 438 as support. But if you get down there, I think it's more likely to come all the way back down here to 430 and back test that level. You did already back test on this weekly candlestick right here. You broke up, came back down. We could just look at this. That was like a $12 drop right there. So we can do that. And as long as you hold that, you are still in your uptrend. So I do want to make that clear right now. Now, if we do see that 16% drop, guys, you're coming way down. All right. That is going to be the case. You're actually coming pretty close to this low over here that we put in March. So holy sweet baby Jesus. Would that be crazy to see these prices again? It would, all right? It would. And again, I'm not saying this can't happen because back in 2011, when the same exact catalyst took place, all right, let's just point out you had a 7% down week. Yeah, 7% down week over here, and you come over to DIA, and we can look at that bad boy. I'm going to talk about DIA in this video a little bit. Where are you on DIA? All right, right over here, all right? You saw what is that? There was a minus 5% week, but like the whole drop here, all right, guys, you also saw like an 18% drop. You come over here, QQQ, all right, I think that's actually the one we showed at first, though. You saw a larger 16% drop right there. You come over to IWM. Let's see what happened. All right, come over to IWM in 2011. Find August. Where's August? Oh, it's this bad boy right here. All right, peak to trough right there. You saw a 25% drop. So IWM, if we were to see that, you're coming all the way back down here and you're breaking these lows. All right, and if small caps are going to be the leading indicator, like a lot of people claim them to be, then yeah, if we saw that same correction here, not correction, that would be the same crash. We'll call it a crash. All right, I'm not gonna not say that wouldn't be a crash. If we see the moves I just showed you guys back then, it's a crash. You're taking out the previous low, you're going real quick, and it makes sense. You have the catalyst to do so. All right, so if that were to happen, then we could literally look at this as a giant bear flag, like a gigantic bear flag. And yeah, you would be seeing a boom. Then you do have a chance of just continuing lower. And if this is going to be the leading indicator that a lot of people say it is, then we're going to have to see, maybe that leads the indices lower. But guys, until things change on the charts, I'm not going to change my tune. All right, I've held that viewpoint for quite some time here on the channel. And yeah, until that everything starts structurally changing, you have no reason to turn into a perma bear. You have no reason to bet on a crash. Crashes are extremely rare, and that is literally what happened in 2020. We call all of 2022. I guess that was a slow-lived crash right there. It was pretty slow. You just got stair step down over there, month after month. There, quarter after quarter, I guess we call it. You had like these cycles here, but yeah, I mean, guys, I am 100% open to that larger scale correction, as we do have QQQ's weekly RSI with the bearish divergence sitting up there, and now you have the bearish engulfing candlestick to give you the signal on that. And yeah, if SPY makes it all the way back down to 430, that is going to line with this 20 weekly moving average, which, that could be somewhat of support. You see over there, that is what happened. That is what happened over when you recovered from COVID. We can look back a lot of these times. 20 weekly moving average is providing your support. So that would be something that would be an area of confluence there. We would be looking out for that. And let's actually just put on the BBs, the Bollinger Bands, and I'm going to point out. All right, again, does this action look different than this action? Yes, you rode the bottom Bollinger Band for quite some time. Over here, you rode the top of it for quite some time. All right. Once you started doing that, after you corrected there, all right, you rode the bottom, you corrected, all right, you didn't see any massive crash here. All right, the largest thing you saw was over here. Now, I understand. Good times, rock and roll was going on. That's how it was. Everyone was like, oh, stimmy money. Ooh, go to the moon. We're going to the moon. And we did go to the moon. All right. Yeah, you see what I'm talking about. Strictly looking at the technicals, that is just what happened. You could get something like this. All right, 2018, you had a crash over there. All right, 2-week period down 12%. That is a lot. But again, you had a bearish catalyst to do so. All right, 2018 was not a good year for that. I think we actually had the rising interest rates. I actually did just see a tweet about what is his name? Bowler. I don't know. Fed speaker said we absolutely need rising rates. We need rates to rise, something like that. So again, I mean, these are the bearish catalysts that we're going to need to push lower. And as these come out, we will change our tune. And as structure changes, we will change our tune. All right, and look at that. You just kept riding this upper Bollinger Band the whole entire time. You're finally approaching the bottom. When was the last time you did approach the bottom? It was over here when you're just consolidating. But these all are also going to be associated with bounces. You see, like every time you made it to this bottom Bollinger Band, other than in the bear market. I don't think we have that bear market behavior. I'm just going to make that clear, right? But yeah, these are associated with your bounces. You hit it right there, bounce. You hit it right there, bounce. You almost hit it there, big bounce. You hit it right here, you went a little lower, and then you had a big ass bounce. All right, came over here, bounce. Came over here, big bounce. you get what you picking up what I'm putting down? You get that? So yeah, if we do make it down over here, I do think we are probably just going to get a decent sized bounce, which we're going to talk about Apple in this video, because I do think a decent bounce doesn't have to be the bottom, but I do think a decent bounce is going to be coming. Take off these ugly Bollinger Bands. Let's go like that. All right, we keep the 20 MA on. That is what we're going to talk about next. I am going to point out right here. All right, you held the 20 MA. You held the 20 MA. You got right under there, but you held the 20 MA. All right, right here, you got rejected by the 20 MA, and that is what we have right here. You came back, went underneath it, came back, and rejected off of the 20 MA. This is something that every time since the start of 2022, all right, start of our bear market, if you got underneath it and you held underneath it, all right, you got rejected right here, right here, right here, right here. You went lower. All right. You did not have your bottom in place. Look at that. You had your consolidation. You had your decent sized bounce here, which I still think we could be getting a decent sized bounce, but I do think we're probably going to continue lower before that decent sized bounce happens over there on SPY and QQQ. And I'm going to point out levels where I think these bounces could take place from. Oh, what happened over here? Could not hold it. All right. You got underneath it. Could not get back above it. Boom. You saw a decent size fall. Now, again, this was the bear market. So that is something that we should all keep in mind here. All right. That is very much so. So over here. All right. Almost made it. Boom. That was out of the bear market. That was in a bull market. All right. But you picking up what I'm putting down. I know you know what I'm talking about, eh? All right. Same over here with QQQ. Come over here. You got underneath it, came back, tested it, and you got rejected. All right. Over here, you held it. Over here, you held it. Over here, you got under for a day. You held it. Over here, you came back to retest it. And what happened? You did not get rejected. You got back above it. Now, let's look at some of these times where you did get underneath it and got rejected by it. All right. Or you couldn't hold it, we should call it. All right. Right here, you couldn't hold it. You very quickly got back underneath it. Boom. There you go. And you went down to find new low. The new low. All right. I think if we go down the 4-hour time frame, there's a bullish divergence there. That is something we watch out for this on this channel. Bullish divergences, they pop up. Any divergences mean something to us here on this channel. All right. But you do have this, rejection here, rejection here, rejection here. What happened all these times? You went lower, you went lower, you went lower. All right. Let's see if we could find another one. All right. Okay. Unlike SPY, you could not get back above it, but almost. You tried testing it. You really did. And then, they couldn't have enough strength. Oh, what are these? More times where you came back up, tested it, and got rejected. You could not hold it. You could not hold it. You could not hold it. Boom. All right. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. All of these times, let's just count it out. All right. You have 1, you have 2, you have 3, you have 4, you have 5. We're gonna dismiss those occurrences right there. All right. We can do this one that I missed right here. You have 6, 7, 8, 9. Hang on, there's more. Oh wait, there's more. 10. Boom. All right, so 10 out of 10 times since the start of 2022, you have seen further downside as long as you got under that 20 MA and held under that 20 MA. That is what we have right here. So like, hey, bulls better recover this thing quickly or we are probably going lower. Just my opinion there. All right, just my opinion. Now, let's just quickly clean up that shot. Boom, very quick. Bear with me, guys. Bear with me. And as you see, there are a lot of times you held it and you continued off the races here. You held it there. All right, you came back, held it right there. You didn't quite test it right there. All right, and yeah, that's it. All right, that is it. But you see what I'm talking about, guys. You see what I'm saying. All right. Now, on the weekly chart over here on QQQ, I will point out this could just be a pullback to backtest the zone from 363, and I changed it. It's on the weekly chart. All right. On the daily chart, we were watching a different one. We were watching something like that. But on the weekly chart, since this is the weekly update, I did change it for this video. We could very much so just come down here and hold 363. So that is something to keep in mind. And if you do get down to 363 and you do see this right here, we could draw a neckline right here. Boom. And then what do we also have right here? What if you make it down here, you bounce off of here, you come back up for a lower high, wherever that may be, you come down and break it. Now what do you have on the chart? You have a new bearish structure. Boom. You have a head and shoulders formation. So that would be something that I will be watching for, but I do think we are likely going to get the bounce. We will go over why I think we likely do get a bounce. All right. Obviously, we are at, levels that people were buying before aggressively over here. All right, you have your breakout here at 360, right around 363. We're right on it. That's where you got your bounce up to here. But again, you got rejected by that. So what's the next level we're going to be watching? We're watching this gap fill around 360. Well, not around. It's at 368.63. That is where I could, see some buyers stepping in right there. But anywhere, honestly, from 863 all the way down to 363. So let's take off this back zone right there. This is where I do think we likely do see a decent bounce. All right. Will that just be a counter trend bounce? It could be. All right. It could be. I did show you at the beginning of the video what happened in 2011, and that could very well happen here. All right. Coming over here to SPY, where could we start seeing these bounces? I know we have these ugly arrows and stuff going on right there. There we go. All right. There we go. Where could we see that bounce? 442.97 to 444, probably 442.97. If we get down to 444, why would you not go down and fill the gap? It just would not make sense. It's going to act as a magnet. All right. But honestly, anywhere in this zone right here from 442.97 all the way down to 438, that is where you need to make your, you need to hold this previous low right here, right? As of right now, you do have a lower low over here. And what happened? You came underneath that low, 452, back tested it, and you got rejected off it. So I will say, yeah, it's very likely that we come down into the zone here. And I don't know if you get a bounce there. I don't know. All right. But I do think it's very likely to come somewhere into the here, before getting a bounce. I think that is very likely at this point in time. So, do with that information with what you will. All right. For what it's worth, it's there. It is there. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. It just means it's there. All right. But like I pointed out on the weekly chart, we can really afford to come all the way down to 430 before breaking the last previous, major low here on the weekly time frame. So that is something I want to point out as well. Now we're going to come over here to Mr. VIX. All right. Let's just click on Mr. VIX right here. I'm going to point out you did have your breakout here on Mr. VIX. And you kind of backtested, you almost backtested it, and boom, you're getting rejected right here at this previous high over here of, I have it right there, 1707. All right, so 1707, well, it's 1708. All right, I'm off by a cent there. But what I do want to point out is we do have our daily RSI all the way up here towards 70. Now, you have had a lot of occurrences over the last since 2020, and the only time you could sustain a bounce over there or sustain the RSI, the daily RSI being that high, was when you were actually crashing. I will come back to 2011 and I don't know why I have this over there. All right, but I will point out this was right here, right? So August, when the first 2 weeks of August, you did end up seeing this massive spike here, which was your bearish catalyst that we just got over here in current time. This was the same exact catalyst. The U.S. credit got downgraded and it caused some panic. This is exactly what a bearish catalyst that's needed to cause this crash style move that could make VIX sustain this. So I just want to point out, unless we are crashing, it's gonna fall. I'm just pointing that out. It has happened every single time. You have not had more than a few days around that 70 mark where, you can see all of these. You have 1, you have 2, you have 3, you have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I could be missing some, but there you go. The only time you really could get above there and just stay above there for quite some time here. All right, you had like 2 to 3 weeks you were above 2020 crash. So, just something I throw in there. Last thing we are going to take a look at is Apple. First things first. Weekly chart. This thing looks so bearish. I'm just going to point that out. All right. You have a big ass bearish engulfing candlestick here. You have increasing volume on that. You have your bearish divergence here playing out on the weekly RSI. But I do want to point out every time your daily RSI has gotten down here, you did get a bounce. I did cover this in Friday's video. Even if it's just going to be something a little like this, that still was a decent sized bounce. I think it is likely that we get a decent sized bounce. Am I going to say this is a candlestick that I think we get a bounce off of? No, I'm going to be completely honest. if I'm just strictly looking at that candlestick, that thing does not look bullish. All right, that thing looks like you're going to get bearish continuation, or you're going to start seeing it consolidate down there before you really do get signs of a bounce. You know, you have similar, it's not, you know, a 5% down candlestick, but you have this right here. What do you get? You got consolidation. Did get a little bounce, but you know, it was only $2 right there. But the daily RSI, guys, it is down here at, no, it's right there, 33. All right, so it is literally down here at 33.20 right now. And every single time you have seen that condition, that is when you start getting your bounce. It doesn't mean you're not going to go lower. It just means that you are going to likely be getting a bounce. Even during the bear market, that is where you got your bounces. Even during the COVID 2020 crash, you did go a little lower here, but then you got your bounce. All right, so just want to point out, you know, that is something that even during the crash, that condition held. So just something I'd point out there. You're previously, you're at your previous all-time high, so could be where buyers step in. But again, I mean, this isn't a bullish setup to me. If you do break under here, 181, I think the bottom of the zone is, yeah, just around, yeah, around 181. If you break 181, you're coming down here to 177. That is where I would be looking for a bounce there. You know, it would be a counter trend bounce until conditions change. You'd have to, you know, put in a low. You would have to put in a high, come back down, higher low, and then you would have, so in order to see this now change, because you did break under here, all right, and you now do have that lower low right here, all right, I guess you do have the lower high right here as well. So you had this low, you had a high, higher low, lower high, and then boom, you killed it, and you switch your trend right there. So you're going to need to see something exactly like this. You're going to need to see a low get put in, you're going to need to see a high, then you're going to need a higher low, then you need to come up here and break that that high right there, and that is what you would put in a trend change. But until that happens, I mean, yeah, it's going to be a counter trend bounce. That's 100% going to be the case. All right, guys, so I am going to end off the video with that. I will just point out Amazon. All right, if you come back down here, this thing does look mighty bullish to me. Now I know why I was seeing a crap ton of Amazon come in. Amazon calls for 8.4. Now I see why. It is because of this move that just took place. It looks like someone found out about that catalyst and FOMO'd their butts off. And then in the end, their contracts pretty much went back up to break even. A lot of people were buying the 140s for 8.4. I think they were like $350 at the time when I was seeing them come in. So, I mean, you didn't really make any money on that move. But, you know, someone FOMO'd in over here. It was literally right over here. So just something I'll point out. It is a bullish setup. In my personal opinion, it does look like you're going to see that pullback. All right, but its pullback's probably going to be to here or back down to back test this bull flag / pennant, whatever, descending triangle, whatever you want to call this thing. That is where I would be likely seeing a reaction on the chart. All right, with that being said, guys, ES still has your 4-hour RSI down in oversold territory. So I do think, like, yeah, guys, I think a little bounce is at least right around the corner. We can stay down there, right? But like even during our bear market, that is where you started seeing these size bounces here. All right, doesn't have to be anything major, but again, I mean, you know, you see your decent sized bounces. I don't know what else to say other than that. You can see a decline from there, but you know, shortly after here, this is 2 weeks after you got down there. All right, the same spot we're at right now. All right, this was, you know, do you see what the date is here? 2022. All right, same things over here. You do see your decent size bounce. Doesn't mean you're not going to go lower. All right, but you know, this is where you start bottoming. You didn't really dance around here too much. You did have this over here. All right, so if we do get the 2011 style crash because we have the same catalyst, you know, we can hang out down here for quite some time. Same over here on ES. All right, guys, with that being said, I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.